I have erased some names from my memory. With my own hands. I met him on a rainy day. The sky was heavy, pouring down like it couldn't hold itself together. My shoes were soaked. I curled under a tiny cafe awning, shivering. He was standing there. His white shirt clinging to him, drenched. And that smile. It was warmer than any cup of coffee I'd ever had. "Are you cold?" he asked. His voice felt like an umbrella over me. I nodded. And he reached out his hand, as if the world had never known betrayal. I should have turned away. I should have. His name was Ethan. We started off like strangers who already knew each other. Random texts. Fleeting touches. Meetings no one dared to call dates. I never thought someone could slip into my life so easily. Ethan didn't say much about himself. He listened more than he spoke. And I, foolishly, thought that meant he cared. No ring on his finger. No tan lines. No signs that he belonged to anyone else. So I let myself believe. The first night was a sweet mistake. We walked along the river, the streetlights throwing long shadows on the wet stones. Ethan spoke of broken dreams. Of times he chose silence when the world begged him to scream. I don't remember who touched who first. I only remember. When his lips met mine, the city noise disappeared. We found a small room above a pub. Barely enough space for a bed, and our heavy breathing. I should have stopped. I thought about it. Right when I saw the look in his eyes. Eyes that never truly held my reflection. But I didn't stop. After that night, I wasn't myself anymore. I dreamed about him every night. I smiled whenever his name lit up my phone. I wrote his name on scraps of paper, and tore them apart in shame. I knew I was sinking into something dangerous. But my heart didn't care. We loved each other like the world might end tomorrow. One night, lying tangled in his arms, Ethan whispered in my ear. "If there's a next life, I hope I choose you first." I didn't understand. I just smiled, and held him tighter. I didn't know. That was his first confession. If I had asked him then, "Why would you have to wait for another life?" Would everything have been different? There was something about him. Something I couldn't touch. Something just beyond my reach. Some nights, he would stare out the window after we made love. Silent. Almost sad. I thought maybe he was tired. Maybe he was worried about work. Maybe he was scared of falling for someone like me. I told myself 1,000 little lies. And I believed every single one of them. Ethan never stayed the whole night. He would hold me until I drifted off. Kiss my forehead. Then slip out before the sun could find him. I never asked why. I was too afraid of the answer. Instead, I built my own answers. He was busy. He had early meetings. He needed space. Love makes you stupid. It makes you build castles out of smoke. One night, he stayed a little longer. He traced circles on my bare shoulder. Soft, absent-minded. I asked him what he was thinking. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Do you ever wish you could freeze a moment forever?" I smiled. Thinking he was being romantic. Thinking he meant us. I didn't know he meant he wished he could freeze the lie. We kept seeing each other. In stolen hours. In secret corners of the city. In the hush of motel rooms that never asked for names. I should have seen the signs. The way he never answered his phone around me. The way he never spoke about tomorrow. But I didn't want to see. I closed my eyes. And called it love. The last night before everything changed, we sat in his car. The rain tapping on the windshield like impatient fingers. He held my hand tightly. Too tightly. "I'm no good for you," he said. His voice cracked on the words. I laughed it off. Kissed him hard. Told him he didn't get to decide that for me. If only I had listened. If only I had asked. "Who are you running from, Ethan?" Would he have told me then? Would he have spared me? Or was it already too late? It started with little things. Small fractures beneath the surface. A missed call. A forgotten text. A vague excuse. He wasn't as careful anymore. Or maybe I wasn't as blind. There were moments when he would pull away from me. Moments when his phone would buzz. And he would stiffen. Like a secret trying to stay hidden. I told myself it was nothing. That every relationship had cracks. That love meant understanding. But deep down, something inside me started to ache. One evening, we met at a hotel out of town. He seemed restless. His kisses rushed. His hands trembling slightly when they touched me. I asked him what was wrong. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Just work," he said. "Deadlines. Stress." I believed him. Because believing him was easier than the alternative. Afterwards, as we lay tangled in the sheets, I turned to him. "I don't care about anything else," I whispered. "I just want you." He closed his eyes. And for a moment, I thought he was asleep. But then I saw it. A tear. Sliding down his cheek. I reached out to wipe it away. But he caught my wrist. Held it there. Pressed it against his chest. His heart was racing. Wild. Desperate. "Promise me," he said. "Promise you'll never hate me." I laughed softly. Thinking he was being dramatic. Thinking love could survive anything. "I could never hate you," I said. He kissed me then. With a hunger that felt almost like goodbye. I should have asked. I should have screamed. I should have torn the truth from him. But I just kissed him back. And let the lie settle into my skin. The next morning, he was gone. Like he had never been there at all. I stared at the empty space beside me. The dent in the pillow where his head had been. And for the first time, I felt truly alone. A week later, I found out I was pregnant. The test slipped from my fingers. Clattered onto the cold bathroom floor. Positive. The word blinked at me. Mocking. Unforgiving. I sat there for hours. Watching the light crawl across the tiles. Feeling the weight of 2 lives pressing down on me. I thought about calling him. Telling him. Hearing his voice tell me everything would be all right. But something stopped me. A whisper in the back of my mind. A cold, trembling hand pulling at my spine. I waited 3 days. 3 days of sleepless nights. Of staring at the ceiling, hand over my stomach, wondering if he would even care. Finally, I texted him. Just 5 words. "I need to see you." He replied quickly. Too quickly. "Tomorrow." Usual place. The hotel room smelled like cheap disinfectant and old regrets. I sat on the edge of the bed. Hands trembling in my lap. When he walked in, I thought he looked different. Older. Tired. Or maybe I was the one who had changed. He kissed me lightly. A brush of lips. As if he was somewhere else already. I pulled back. "I need to tell you something," I said. He stiffened. Eyes darting to the door, then back to me. I could see it then. The fear. The dread. I told him. In a voice that didn't sound like mine. "I'm pregnant." The words hung there. Heavy. Final. Ethan didn't speak. He just sat down slowly. Like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. Seconds stretched into minutes. The silence between us became a living thing. Finally, he whispered. "Are you sure?" I nodded. Tears burning the back of my eyes. He buried his face in his hands, shaking his head slowly. I reached for him, desperate for any sign that he still wanted me. Wanted us. But he pulled away. I can't, he said, voice raw. I can't do this. A knife twisted inside me. Why not? I choked out. Why can't you? He looked up then. And in that moment, I saw it. The walls. The chains. The life he had hidden from me. He opened his mouth. Closed it again. Struggling. I made mistakes, he said. I never wanted to hurt you. Tears blurred my vision. Tell me the truth, Ethan, I whispered. Please. He hesitated. And then, the door of the room creaked. A shadow fell across the threshold. Someone was there. Waiting. Someone he hadn't told me about. The shadow shifted. A figure stepped into the light. A woman. Tall. Beautiful. Wearing a gold ring that caught the dim glow of the hallway. Her eyes locked onto Ethan. Not me. Never me. Ethan, she said. Her voice was steady. Cold. He stood up quickly, as if jolted by electricity. Ava, I can explain, he stammered. Ava. His wife. The word slammed into me. A bullet between my ribs. I sat frozen. Watching. Breathing, somehow. The woman looked at me then. Really looked. And in her eyes, I saw nothing. No anger. No jealousy. Only tiredness. And a strange, terrible pity. She walked past me. Slowly. As if stepping around something broken on the floor. You promised, she said to him. So many times. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Ethan turned to me. Panic written all over his face. I wanted to tell you, he said. I tried. I swear. I shook my head. Because what else was there to say? The woman, Ava, smiled then. A sad, brittle thing. Let's go, Ethan, she said. You've done enough. He looked at me one last time. His eyes begging for something. Forgiveness. Mercy. A future that could never be. And then, he left. Without another word. Without reaching for me. The door clicked shut behind him. And the silence that followed was louder than any scream. I sat there for a long time, staring at the empty doorway, at the shadows stretching longer and longer across the floor. My hand drifted to my stomach, to the tiny, fragile heartbeat that didn't know its father had just walked away. Tears came. Slow at first. Then all at once. I cried for him. For me. For the child inside me who deserved better. But mostly, I cried because deep down, I had always known. I had known. And I had loved him anyway. Days blurred into nights. Nights blurred into something worse. I stopped answering my phone. Stopped checking the door. Stopped pretending that the world outside still had anything to offer me. It was just me now. And the life growing inside me. Some mornings, I would wake up and forget. Just for a moment. Just long enough to breathe. And then it would crash down again. The truth. The shame. The unbearable weight of knowing I had built my whole world on a lie. I thought about ending it. More than once. Ending the pregnancy. Ending the pain. But every time I pressed my palm against my belly, I felt a tiny flicker of something. Hope. Fear. Love. I couldn't tell anymore. I sat in the bathroom one night, knees pulled to my chest, listening to the hum of the broken heater. I whispered to the darkness. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry for what? I didn't even know. Sorry for being blind. Sorry for believing. Sorry for bringing a life into a world so full of broken promises. Would my child hate me someday? Would they look at me and see only my mistakes? Would they carry the stain of my choices like a second skin? The questions gnawed at me, ripped me apart from the inside. I wanted to call him, to hear his voice, to scream at him, to beg him. But I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I wrote him letters I never sent. Long, rambling confessions scrawled at 3 a.m., ink smeared with tears. In them, I told him everything. How he had shattered me. How I still loved him anyway. How our child would grow up never knowing the sound of his father's laugh. I burned them all in the sink. Watching the smoke curl into the night air. Watching my words disappear like they never mattered. Maybe they never did. Maybe I never did. I made a decision. One cold, gray morning when the sky looked as tired as I felt. I would keep the baby. Not because of him. Not because of love. But because some part of me still believed that I could build something real out of the ruins he left behind. I pressed both hands to my stomach. Closed my eyes. You and me, I whispered. We'll survive this. Outside, the first snow began to fall. Soft. Silent. Covering the dead ground in a layer of fragile white. Trying, maybe, to make everything look clean again. I didn't plan to see him again. I had promised myself that much. But life. It has a cruel sense of humor. It happened at the grocery store. A forgotten list. An empty fridge. A random Tuesday. I turned a corner. And there he was. Ethan. Standing by the canned soup aisle. Holding a basket full of things I used to buy for him. Time slowed. Collapsed into itself. He looked up. Saw me. And for a moment. There was nothing else. No aisles. No fluorescent lights. No strangers passing by. Just us. His eyes widened. Flickered with something I couldn't name. Guilt. Regret. Longing. I didn't know anymore. He took a step toward me. Stopped. I swallowed hard. My hand instinctively fell to my belly. Now rounded, impossible to hide. His eyes dropped there. He saw. I saw him see. Something in his face cracked. Just for a second. Before he masked it again. He started. Then stopped. The words stuck in his throat. Like broken glass. I could have said 1,000 things. I could have screamed. Begged. Cursed. But I didn't. I just looked at him. At the man I had loved. The man who had loved me. In his own broken, selfish way. I'm okay, I said. 3 simple words. A lie so heavy it nearly crushed me. His mouth opened again. Closed. He looked. Small. Lost. I turned away. Walked past him. Didn't look back. Every step felt like tearing open an old wound. But I kept walking. 1 foot. Then another. Because I wasn't walking away from him. Not really. I was walking toward something else. Toward myself. Toward the life growing inside me. At the checkout line, I stood still. Breathing. Bleeding invisibly. And somewhere behind me, I heard a basket drop. Heard hurried footsteps retreating. Running. Again. I closed my eyes. Let the sound of him leaving be the last thing I ever took from him. The hospital room was too bright. Too clean. Too silent. I lay there. Wrapped in thin sheets. Hands clenching the sides of the bed. Pain came in waves. Sharp. Relentless. Each one tearing something deeper than flesh. No one held my hand. No one whispered that it would be okay. It was just me. And the life I had chosen to bring into the world. Hours blurred. Minutes stretched like years. I thought about quitting. Thought about giving up. But then, in the middle of the screaming, the pushing, the breaking, there was a sound. A cry. Thin. New. Fierce. They placed her in my arms. Tiny. Warm. Alive. I looked down at her. At the fragile miracle I had built out of my own wreckage. Her eyes opened. Deep. Dark. Searching. She didn't know my shame. Or my mistakes. Or the man who would never come. She only knew me. My heartbeat. My scent. My trembling arms. I cried then. Not the desperate sobs of betrayal. Not the hollow wails of abandonment. This was different. This was grief and love. Woven together in a way I didn't know was possible. A nurse came by. Smiling softly. Clipboard in hand. "Have you decided on a name?" she asked. I looked at the tiny face pressed against my chest. I thought about all the names I had once dreamed of. Names whispered into Ethan's neck. Names imagined in half-sleep. None of them fit now. But one floated up. Unexpected. Simple. Pure. "Leah," I said. The nurse nodded, wrote it down. She didn't know. She didn't know that Leah had been the name of a star Ethan once pointed out to me. The first night he kissed me. Before all the lies. Before all the breaking. I chose it not because of him. But because I wanted my daughter to be born from something beautiful. Not from bitterness. Not from hate. I kissed Leah's forehead. Felt her tiny breath against my skin. "You," I whispered. "You are not my mistake." She sighed in her sleep. Curled tighter against me. Outside the window. The world spun on. Unaware. Unaffected. But inside that room. Something had shifted. Something had begun. I was still broken. Still bleeding. Still scared. But I wasn't alone anymore. Not really. Not ever again. If you're listening to this, I guess it means I found the courage. Courage to tell the truth. At least once. Not for him. Not for anyone else. For me. I loved him. I won't pretend otherwise. I loved him in a way that made the world blur around the edges. Made right and wrong feel irrelevant. And he loved me. In his broken way. Maybe not enough. Maybe too much. I don't hate him. Not anymore. Hate is a heavy thing to carry. And I already have enough weight inside me. He never told me he was married. I had to find out when it was too late. When it wasn't just my heart on the line. But another tiny heartbeat, too. I still wonder sometimes. Would I have left? If he had been honest from the start? Would I have stayed? Even knowing it would ruin us both? I don't know. I guess that's the thing about betrayal. It's not just about the lie. It's about all the choices you never got to make. Because of it. I made my choice now. I chose to live. To love, even if it's hard. Even if it's imperfect. Even if it breaks me all over again. Leah sleeps beside me now. Tiny fists curled against her cheeks. Breathing like the world has never hurt her. And maybe that's what this is all for. Not to erase the past. Not to pretend it never happened. But to build something beautiful. Out of the wreckage. I hope she grows up knowing that love isn't always clean. It isn't always fair. But it's real. And sometimes, that's enough. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying. Thank you for letting me be seen. Even in the broken pieces. If you're still here, maybe there's hope for the rest of us, too. I'll be back soon. Maybe with lighter stories. Maybe not. But either way, I'll be here. Still breathing. Still trying. Still loving. Always.